All right, diving right in to the deep dive today. We're all about this super interesting link between mindfulness and, well, your incredible body. I mean, you've been digging into mindfulness lately, right? And you're kind of curious how to use it to really like tap into your body's own wisdom.
Yeah, it's like you're ready to move past just the mental side of things, really listen to the stories that your body is telling. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing what we can learn if we just kind of slow down and pay attention to those little signals.
Oh, totally. I've always thought about mindfulness as, something you do with your mind, like meditation. But now I'm realizing it's so much more, right? It's this whole mind-body connection. I can unlock this whole other level of well-being.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. And all that research you've been looking at, it totally backs that up.
Yeah.
Your body is like constantly communicating, right? It's always giving you these little clues
Hmm.
about what it needs, how it's feeling, and even how, get this, how past experiences are still affecting you.
Okay, so how do we actually start tuning in? The stuff we've been reading mentions something about slowing down, right?
Absolutely. One of the things that really stuck with me is this whole idea of mind traps, those sneaky thoughts that keep us from just like slowing down, being present. It's like our minds are constantly racing, telling us we're too busy, we can't meditate, or we're not doing it right.
Uh, yes, that is so me. The I'm too busy mind trap. That's my go-to for sure. But how do we escape these things, these traps?
Well, the material suggests this technique called checking and dropping, right? You acknowledge the thought, you label it mentally, like,
Yeah.
okay, mind trap, and then just let it go.
Interesting. It sounds almost too simple, but I guess the real trick is just becoming aware of those thoughts in the first place, huh?
Exactly. And that's where the slowing down comes in. When we slow down, we make space to like notice those thoughts and choose how we want to respond instead of getting, swept away by them.
That makes a lot of sense. I remember reading about the Buddha
Hmm.
and his whole discovery of the middle way. It seems like that ties into this slowing down idea, right?
Right. The Buddha realized that extremes like pushing too hard or, indulging too much, they just lead to suffering. It's
Hmm.
all about finding that sweet spot, right? Where you honor your body's needs without getting caught up in, judging yourself or comparing yourself to others.
Hmm. Yeah, that's something I definitely struggle with,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to mindfulness. I catch myself comparing my practice to other people or feeling like I'm not doing it right.
Oh, it's so common. But the beauty of like this whole approach is that there's no right or wrong way. It's
Mm.
just about showing up with curiosity,
Yeah.
with compassion for yourself and your body, wherever you're at right now in this moment.
I love that. Okay, so we're slowing down. We're noticing those mind traps. Now what? How do we actually start, listening to our body's signals?
Well, that's where interoception comes in. It's basically our ability to sense like what's happening inside our bodies, like your heart rate or your muscle tension, or even just like subtle changes in your energy. It's like having this inner compass always pointing you towards, what you really need.
Okay, so interoception is our ability to tune in to our internal state. But how does that translate into like real change? Give me an example.
Well, one of the sources you shared told a story about Cindy. She was a night nurse, and her body was basically sending her all these signals that her work schedule was just, it was out of whack with her natural rhythms. She was always exhausted, getting sick, just feeling off.
Wow. Yeah, I know that feeling. I'm a total night owl myself, but I can totally relate to how that can mess with your body.
Yeah, and for Cindy, it wasn't until she started practicing mindfulness, and paying attention to those interoceptive signals
Yeah.
that she really understood, like how much her work schedule was impacting her health. And once she started tuning in and making a few adjustments, she saw these incredible improvements in her sleep, her energy levels, and just her overall well-being.
That's amazing. So by tapping into interoception, we can really understand our body's needs and make choices that, support our health and well-being.
Exactly. And it's not just about, physical health. Interoception is really closely tied to emotional regulation too. By
Mhm.
by becoming aware of our physical sensations, we can learn to recognize and manage our emotions more effectively.
All right, this is getting really interesting. So we're slowing down, we're noticing those mind traps, and we're tuning into our internal compass. It's like we're building this awesome foundation for a deeper connection with our bodies.
You got it. And that foundation is going to like allow us to explore even more fascinating parts of this connection.
Yeah.
Like how our bodies actually store memories and emotions and how those experiences can shape our lives, today.
Wait, what? My body stores memories. Okay, I need to hear more about this.
Oh.
Like right now? Wait, rewind. You just said our bodies store memories. Like really? Tell me more about that because that's kind of blowing my mind.
Yeah, it really is amazing. It's all about these things called somatic markers.
Hmm.
Just imagine, like, every significant experience you have leaves this kind of fingerprint on your nervous system.
So it's not a conscious memory I can just like pull up.
Right, exactly. It's not like that. It's more like a physical sensation or an emotion or even just this really subtle shift in energy
Yeah.
that gets, triggered when you run into something similar.
So it's like my body remembers things that my mind doesn't. That's kind of freaky, but
Yeah.
also fascinating.
It can be both, for sure.
Yeah.
One of the research articles you sent had this really poignant story about this woman named Sally who had this, like, unexplainable fear of basements, like, just dreaded them.
Oh, wow.
And turns out it all stemmed from this childhood trauma she had totally blocked out. She had found her grandfather after he had fallen down the basement stairs.
Oh, wow. That's heartbreaking. But it makes sense though, right? Her body remembered that trauma, even though her mind like totally buried it.
Exactly. And it's not just like negative experiences. Positive ones leave these markers too. Think about a smell that instantly takes you back to a happy memory from childhood.
Right. Like the smell of fresh baked cookies always makes me feel all warm and fuzzy.
Exactly. That's a somatic marker at work.
So these somatic markers are kind of like little emotional bookmarks scattered all throughout our bodies.
I like that. That's a great analogy.
Mhm.
And you know what? They can really heavily influence how we see the world, how we react to stuff, and even the choices we make. For example, let's say someone had a bad experience with social rejection in the past. A somatic marker from that could make them super hesitant to, put themselves out there again, even if they don't consciously remember what happened.
Wow, that's kind of crazy. So these unconscious imprints, they can really hold us back without us realizing it.
They can, yeah. But the good news is, by becoming aware of them, we can start to, loosen their grip a bit. One technique the sources mention is simply noticing those sensations and emotions as they pop up.
Yeah.
Just notice them without judgment or resistance.
So like if I get that, familiar knot in my stomach before I have to give a big presentation.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead of totally freaking out, I can just be like, okay, this is just a somatic marker. It doesn't have to like control me.
Exactly. And, the more you practice this mindful awareness, the more you'll start to see those sensations and emotions as like valuable pieces of information, not these big scary threats,
Okay, yeah, that's making more sense now. So we're tuning in to our bodies, listening to these stories they're holding and like learning from them. But what about the times when, when the story is just too much, like really overwhelming or even, traumatic? How do we deal with that?
That's where self-regulation comes in. It's basically our ability to soothe ourselves,
Yeah.
to calm ourselves down in tough moments, to create a sense of safety and stability, in our own bodies.
And how does mindfulness help with that?
Well, the research on this is actually pretty incredible. Every time you practice mindfulness, you're essentially like strengthening the neural pathways that are connected to calmness and presence. It's like building a muscle, but for your mind.
So the more I practice, the easier it'll be to like tap into that calm centered state when I really need it. Kind of like having a built-in like chill pill or something.
Exactly. And, the cool thing is it doesn't have to be formal meditation. The source material actually suggested exploring all kinds of different sensory resources that can help with self-regulation.
Ooh, like what? Give me some examples.
Well, things like visualizing a peaceful place, connecting with nature, listening to soothing music, or even just engaging in activities that bring you joy. Anything that shifts your focus, to positive sensations and emotions.
I love that. So it's not just about sitting on a cushion trying to empty our minds. It's about like actively engaging with the world around us in ways that nourish us, both body and mind.
You got it. And, as we cultivate that mindful awareness, we just become more and more in tune with what our bodies truly need to thrive. It's like we're building this amazing toolkit for navigating all the ups and downs of life with more resilience and grace.
This is so empowering. It's like instead of feeling totally at the mercy of my emotions or past experiences, I'm starting to see that I can actually use those experiences to learn and grow.
And that's the beauty of befriending your body through mindfulness. It's about embracing your whole self, with all its complexities and imperfections, and learning to trust that inner wisdom. That's always there, guiding you towards, a deeper sense of well-being.
I'm so ready to dive in even deeper. What else can we explore about this whole mind-body connection? As much as I love this idea of like slowing down, tuning in, sometimes I worry that if I focus on every little sensation, it might just be too much, like
Right.
when I get totally overwhelmed by all that input.
I get it. It's a totally valid concern. Mindfulness isn't about becoming like hyper aware of every single thing all the time. It's more about learning to shift your attention, skillfully, noticing what's helpful and letting go of what's not.
So it's like we're developing this inner filter, learning to kind of figure out like what signals are actually important and what we can just tune out.
Exactly. You got it.
Yeah.
And that ability to discern that it comes with practice.
Hmm.
At first, yeah, it might feel like a lot to take in, but over time, you start to notice these patterns. You develop this deeper understanding of your body's own unique language.
Okay, that makes me feel better. I was picturing myself just walking around in a constant state of sensory overload, like, oh my gosh, my left knee feels tingly. What does that mean?
Uh, we all have those moments, I think, when we first start paying attention. But remember, mindfulness is about bringing this gentle curiosity to the experience, not, analyzing every single sensation under a microscope.
Right. It's about finding that balance
Mm.
between awareness and acceptance, not getting lost in the tiny details, but not ignoring those little cues our bodies are giving us either.
Exactly. And one of the sources you shared actually talked about this,
Mm.
the importance of paying attention to both the pleasant and the unpleasant sensations.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
natural to want to avoid discomfort, but those sensations can actually teach us a lot. They have valuable information.
Interesting. So instead of pushing away those unpleasant sensations, I should like try to understand them, see what they're telling me.
It can be such a powerful practice. Think of it this way. Pain, pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. When we resist uncomfortable sensations, when we try to suppress them, we often just end up amplifying them. We create more suffering. But when we approach them with curiosity, with compassion, well, that's when we can actually start to heal.
Wow, I'm really starting to see how powerful this mind-body connection can be. It's like I'm finally giving my body a seat at the table,
Yeah.
you know, acknowledging its wisdom and learning to trust its guidance.
I love that. And as keep cultivating this connection, you'll probably discover all kinds of surprising insights and benefits. Maybe you'll find yourself making healthier choices more effortlessly, or navigating those tough emotions with a little more ease, or even experiencing a much deeper connection with yourself and the world around you.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I have this whole new appreciation for my body and its amazing ability to heal and guide me.
I'm so happy to hear that. It's been a pleasure exploring all this with you. What stands out to you the most from everything we've talked about?
It's just realizing that my body isn't just this vessel. It's a source of wisdom and resilience. And by slowing down, tuning in, really befriending my body, I'm tapping into a power that honestly I never knew I had.
That's a really powerful insight. And I think it speaks to how transformative this work can be. As you continue to explore mindfulness and that mind-body connection, just remember, be patient with yourself, stay curious, and most of all, trust your body's wisdom. It's always there to guide you.
Absolutely. And to all our listeners out there, I encourage you to start your own journey of self-discovery through the incredible world of your body. You might be surprised by what you find.
Until next time, keep diving deep.